Welcome to the third episode of the Hybrid Cloud Partners podcast. I'm Fede Pacheco, one of your two co-hosts.
Hey, all. I'm Adam Burke. I'm part of the data center optimization team and your other co-host here. Really excited for this conversation around Arc and supporting our hybrid cloud partners.
That's right. This is the second episode that we dedicate on Arc because it's such an incredible opportunity, a profitable opportunity for every partner that has Windows or SQL Server licenses in their data centers. Adam, can you remind us what Arc is for those who haven't listened to our previous episode?
Yeah. So in its simplest form, Arc is really a platform and a management plane that allows you to extend additional capabilities from Azure into your data center. So if you're a partner or a customer, you can connect Arc into your data center. And then really everything operates in kind of a pay-go concept with Arc. So Arc itself as a agent is free. You really only pay for what you need.
That is awesome. And I will remind everyone why this is so exciting, because in a very simple way, you improve your margins, not only with what Adam just mentioned, but also because you can leverage Microsoft incentives and benefits on CSP for Azure. You can simplify your operations and save on overhead costs, like we heard Rackspace share that story last episode. And then you also get the benefits of the Azure cloud, and we're going to dive into those benefits today. You don't need to, in other words, you don't need to migrate to Azure to get those benefits. And this is something that is so meaningful. No wonder why we have hundreds of partners deploying this with thousands of their customers, because we can meet customers and partners where they're at today. And as part of that deep dive that we're going to do in this episode, we have a very special guest. People call him the Arc Ninja. We have a principal partner solutions architect here with us today. His name is Dale Kirby, and welcome to our show, Dale.
Yeah, thank you, Fede. Thank you, Adam. Really glad to be on the podcast today. Always excited to talk about Azure Arc and can't wait to explore more of what our partners do with it.
Yeah, Dale, it's always awesome when I hear you talk about the shock in any person that you're demoing Arc on, and they're like, wait, what is that? Is that really still in my data center? It looks like an Azure resource.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one of the neat things is, with Azure Arc, we can get resources that live on premises. In fact, I've got a couple of servers and even a couple of Kubernetes clusters at my own house that I've Arc enabled. The servers themselves, they live in my house, right? They sit in my house, their physical assets, their compute, their storage, their power, all that lives here. But there's a representation of them in the Azure portal, and I can actually use Azure to manage those servers to do some fun little projects we have with AI and things around the house. So yeah, Arc is a really powerful tool. A lot of our partners are adding that as basically another tool in their managed services toolbox to expand their practice to customers that have both cloud and on-premises resources.
Man, now I want to go to your house. I'm imagining the doors open automatically. It automatically detects who I am.
There's a little bit of that,
yeah. So what we're going to do here, because we got not only one, but two experts with their own perspectives, is I'm just going to throw out questions, and whoever wants to chime in, feel free to do so, right? Last episode, we talked about two big opportunities for Arc, specifically for our partners, the Arc-enabled SQL piece and the extended security updates. We will start with Arc-enabled SQL first. What does that mean, really?
So Fede, I think in its simplest form, Arc-enabled SQL is really a great way to provide additional value to your customers while also lowering your costs. So when you Arc-enable a SQL server, you don't have to do anything in terms of a reinstallation. It technically doesn't even require a reboot. You're just basically providing additional value with things like the best practices analyzer and additional capabilities. And whenever you check the pay-as-you-go box, you're actually getting billed through Azure for that SQL server, which for our SPLA partners is going to reduce their costs. And so it's really a great opportunity to get better economics, but then also additional value and capabilities through Arc.
Another thing I might add, once you've got visibility of your on-premises data assets like SQL Server inside of Azure, there's just a lot of power you have now when you have that central visibility of your entire data estate, particularly if you have SQL servers that are distributed in different locations or different within different geographies, and having that ability to have your whole data estate and really your whole IT estate, because this is what Azure Arc does. It lets you visualize and have representation inside of Azure of your on-premises resources. And then you can monitor them, protect them, secure them, and even now, pay for them with pay-go models once they're Arc enabled.
Yeah, DL, I think those are great points. One of the things that I think is important for our partners to understand too is really all of the capabilities that they have access to once they deploy Arc. We certainly see like Arc-enabled SQL and ESUs being the primary drivers of our partner interest, but there's a ton of capabilities that partners can, choose to really opt in for if they want to provide incremental value around Arc to their customers. Could you walk us through kind of some of those key ones that you're really seeing partners excited about?
Yeah, let's just go deeper with what we could do with just a SQL server. Once you've onboarded that SQL server and maybe now you're paying for it in ESU through Azure, that's great, but you can also now manage backups for it through Azure. You can manage patches for it through Azure. You can protect it with Defender for Cloud through Azure. You can monitor it with Azure Monitor through Azure. You can get a best practices assessment on what's performing well, what's maybe not performing well, what's maybe not secure through Azure. And so all of this is possible once you've Arc enabled that SQL server. And of course, let's say you're not running SQL Server, you've just got other types of servers that you want to have monitoring and security and things like that enabled on. Well, Arc will help you there too. You can Arc enable those Windows servers or even perhaps those Linux servers that are running applications in your IT estate. Once those are Arc enabled, now you can bring solutions like Azure Monitor, like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and use those tools on those on-premises servers to have really just a comprehensive and single pane of glass, the way I look at it, single pane of glass way of managing and operating your entire estate. And so that's really a powerful paradigm. And particularly for customers and partners that are already using some of these Azure tools today, why not extend them and use them with your on-premises services?
Dale, I think you really covered it well. I think what we see is a lot of times Arc is a key driver with something like SQL, and then partners find additional ways to provide value. I think it's also important you can really pick and choose. So like one of the common questions we get is, hey, if I deploy ESUs, do I need to actually use Arc to patch my infrastructure? And the issue is you can, but you don't have to. And so we've really built Arc in a way that is super extensible and complementary to your existing tool set as well. And so you can really kind of pick and choose and see what makes the most sense for you as a partner.
And all of these features, many of them are included or at no extra cost, like the best practices assessment. And others, like what Dale mentioned about Defender, they do have a cost, but they're opt-in. You will never be forced to pay anything extra for deploying Arc. These are just added value that you can incorporate in your practice for your customers and make it part of your business. For our next question, I actually want to talk a little bit more about cost optimization. So Dale, how does Arc enabling your SQL servers give you control over the cost optimization?
Yeah, well, one method you can think about here is you now are on a pay-go model with the SQL server. And so if you've got periods of, and the pay-go model obviously is based on the number of cores on that server that you're using per month. And so if you have the ability to do, for example, scale up or scale down that workload, you have that's a lot more control than you would have over just the flat cost of purchasing all of the cores for that server. So that's one option. With ESU, you also have some options there because you're also paying for the ESU on a term. And obviously, we want everyone that's using ESU to upgrade when they're able to, so that they're on a healthy and modern platform. And so if you are able to upgrade during the ESU term, that's another way you won't have to pay for the remaining term of the ESU. That's another cost optimization that you're going to get. And then finally, the last thing is, what we've seen is customers, they use tools like Azure Migrate to automatically Arc enable their servers. Now, I know you heard me say migrate. You don't actually have to move servers with Azure Migrate. You can just Arc enable with that tool. And that's a good way to kind of get an assessment of what's on premises. And we've had customers that cost optimize that way by just getting an assessment what they're running on premises, how can they kind of optimize and streamline their operation. So there's a lot of ways that Arc can help with cost optimization. And I think just, again, this pay-go option with SQL is one really attractive one right now.
Yeah, when we heard from Rackspace, the huge decrease in their total cost of ownership, now you can see actually what is behind that total cost of ownership, right? And the improvements there. Adam, I also want to ask you, we've mentioned a couple of times the best practices assessment. Tell me more about that feature and why do you recommend it?
Well, when I was a consultant in the Microsoft partner ecosystem, one of the questions I would often get was, does this infrastructure, does my server, my VM, my solution, how does it align to Microsoft best practices? And so the best practices assessment is exactly what it sounds. It's, if you're using Arc-enabled SQL, it's baked in, and it really can help you fine-tune that infrastructure. One, from a security and compliance standpoint, you can make sure you harden that and that you're secure and really your server's in kind of the best position possible from a security standpoint. But it can also help around performance as well, performance and scalability, making sure that everything is configured effectively and you've optimized it as well. So there's a great dashboard there that you can, look to kind of take some of those outputs and share with your customer. But it's really a great way to provide incremental value that shows the capability and, the support you as the partner are providing through your managed services agreement to your customers. And so, there's great benefits here, and we've seen partners super excited about, kind of this additional functionality they can provide to existing infrastructure
At no extra cost. Now let's switch gears into the extended security updates. Tell me more about that, Adam, and especially how it's an opportunity to ignite some conversations with customers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's essentially a couple of ways that you can buy extended security updates. And what those are basically a way to keep receiving the security updates for Microsoft products like Windows Server and SQL Server that are essentially end of life. And so you can get an up to 3 more years of security updates by purchasing, these ESUs. And you can purchase them through either a volume license channel or Arc. One of the key benefits about Arc is you essentially are operating in a pay-as-you-go motion where you're purchasing from the time the solution has entered extended support. But if you upgrade, and most of our customers and partners for these products that are kind of in this extended support phase, are really thinking or should be thinking about, how do I modernize this? How do I get this to a modern solution? And so as you're kind of in that 3-year buffer, once you're ready to move off of that, you can stop paying with Arc. Where if you go through our volume license channel, it works in 1-year increments. So, if you're 6 months in and you upgrade that server, you don't really save any money with the volume licensing option, whereas with Arc, you do. And so that's a huge cost savings opportunity that we are seeing with partners. And it's really also a great way to ensure that your customers with legacy solutions are staying secure. In addition to that, I should say, the SPLA licensing model for Windows and SQL meets the minimum requirements to be able to receive ESUs. You essentially either have to have software assurance, or in the case of SPLA has been granted access to these ESUs as well. And so if you're a SPLA partner and you have workloads that your customers are running and they are on Windows 2012, SQL 2012, or SQL 2014, these ESUs are a great way to help your customer stay secure on premises while they plan for that next step, whether that's an upgrade on-prem, maybe a modernization in Azure. Whatever their plans, Arc is a great way to kind of stay secure with ESUs during that extended support timeframe.
Thanks, Adam. That's an awesome overview. And now I want to go back to Dale and ask you, because you help partners deploy this and purchase ESUs. Tell me about that process and actually how easy it is.
Yeah, that's right, Fede. There's really not much to tell because it is so easy. And it's done, or it can be done through Azure Portal. So that's the easiest way, I would say, for moving a single server to ESU, to purchase ESU through Azure or to purchase a SQL license through Azure. So literally a radio box inside of Azure portal. Once your server is Arc enabled, and that radio box is all you need to toggle. And once you toggle that, you're on a pay-go model for SQL Server or purchasing the ESU. There is also an option if you're a partner and you're doing this at scale, and you obviously don't want to go to every single server in Azure portal for all of your customers. And of course, you can use our APIs to execute the same process. So programmatically is one option, but of course, the easy way is literally the easy button inside of Azure portal, and it couldn't be simpler than that.
Where do you start? If I'm a partner that has listened to our first 1.5 episodes on this, and they're like, I'm ready to go, I don't need to hear anything else, what do you recommend to start?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one, always free to reach out to us. dco.microsoft.com is the best way to find us. You can contact us there. In addition, we have some, resources that help partners around this. We have Arc Jumpstart. If you do a Bing search on that, you'll be able to get some great resources there. And we have our Cloud Migration Factory, which is how Microsoft can provide additional resources to you as the partner to help with these Arc deployments into production. So a lot of great ways we can help, but dco.microsoft.com is the best way to get a hold of us, and we'd love to talk to you about your specific needs and scenario here.
Dale, any other resources that you recommend?
Adam recommended Jumpstart. Definitely recommend that. That's the top resource for all things technical when it comes to Arc. Check that out. We have specific examples in Jumpstart for exploring how ESU and the SQL pay-go model work, along with things like best practice assessment and a lot of other stuff. So definitely check that out, and looking forward to hearing how you use it in your practices.
Adam, you also mentioned DCO. Why is it such a great fit for DCO?
DCO stands for Data Center Optimization. And with DCO, we're really all about helping our partners get extra value and driving that partner transformation with capabilities through the Microsoft Cloud. Azure Arc is a great hybrid opportunity to do that. Arc is a great way to drive cost savings and also drive incremental Azure revenue. That's one of the things that sometimes partners don't realize is Arc services drive incremental Azure revenue. And we're certainly here to help partners take advantage of those capabilities. And there's additional investments that we can often look to provide depending on kind of the size of the opportunity. And Arc is a great way that we can look to help partners kind of find a path to drive that incremental growth and provide those investments to them. So it's really a great place for partners to get started.
And before I let you all go, I want to ask a couple of questions. What are your typical questions that you get on deploying Arc?
How can I do it at scale? Is a very common question from partners. And there are many ways, and I think that's the beauty of it, is if you have a particular way of working with infrastructure that's comfortable to you, whether that's traditional Windows-based and using Microsoft-based tools, perfect. You can use PowerShell, you can use System Center, you can use Group Policy, you can use Windows Admin Center, you can use Azure Portal, you can use Azure Automation, lots of ways. If you're familiar and comfortable with Linux environments or VMware environments, great. You can use PowerCLI, you can use Ansible, you can use any number of tools to get Arc onboarded at scale in an automated way. And so there's lots of options there. Definitely encourage you to check out Jumpstart for some examples of those. And I'll also mention Arc works with Lighthouse. So if you've got many customers you're managing, then you can use Lighthouse and Arc together to manage your customers and onboard your customers at scale through both Lighthouse and through Azure Arc. So we've designed it to make it easy for you to work with, regardless of how you operate. And I hope that you'll check that out and find a way that works for you.
And for both of you, any final advice that we haven't covered that you would give any partner that's starting with Arc right now?
If you're not using Arc, you're missing out, is what I always say. Yeah, if you don't have it in your toolbox and you consider yourself a managed service partner, managed services and like cloud hosting partner with some business on premises, then you're missing out.
Yeah, I would say, if you haven't already heard, definitely check out the Rackspace conversation around Azure Arc. I think they really, provide some third-party validation on the huge benefit that Arc has provided them. If you're a hybrid cloud partner as well, if you have a data center estate, this is a great way to get incremental hybrid capabilities without having to migrate to Azure. So from a Microsoft standpoint, we're always happy to help you with an Azure migration. But we also recognize it's a hybrid world, and Arc is a great way for us to be able to provide additional value to you and to our joint customers in a hybrid scenario. And so that's why we're super excited about it, because it just opens so many doors for our partners and customers when they have that deployment in place.
Wow, this has been such an awesome overview. And over the past 1.5 episodes, we've really covered a lot of ground. I'm betting partners are excited. And before we conclude, we have one more thing, Adam, right?
Yeah. Have a great conversation with Center Technologies. They called Arc a triple win, which I love in terms of, how it provided value for them, for their customers, for Microsoft. It's really a great story. They are an indirect partner. They deployed Arc across a number of customers, but not necessarily the same scale as Rackspace, and they're finding huge value out of it as well. So really excited for this story and conversation.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Center Technologies and this 2-part episode series on Azure Arc. We have more hybrid cloud opportunities to share. In the next episode, we'll be talking about Azure Stack HCI and the capabilities it brings to save costs and also get some predictability in your cost structure for you and your customers. Stay tuned for that.
Before we jump in, if you're wondering how these opportunities fit in your organization, remember that our DCO team is here and available anytime to discuss these topics at no cost to you. You can connect with our team at dco.microsoft.com.
I'm really excited to tell you the story of Center Technologies. Center Technologies has had a fascinating track in the past 12 months, and we have Todd Smith from Center. He's the CTO and will tell us a bit more of what happened and what has been so successful. Todd, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Todd, tell us your experience growing your Azure practice over the past 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So Center Technologies, we're a IT solutions and services provider. Have a lot of managed services clients. We have a private cloud offering, do a lot of project consulting. But yeah, over the last 12 months, we had at least 29 customers utilizing Microsoft SPLA for SQL. And we were working to convert them to Azure Arc. We had a lot of challenges auditing SPLA licenses. Yeah, we were able to migrate all but about 5 of the 29 clients utilizing it. And we used that conversation with the clients to ultimately talk about Azure. So I would encourage partners to not just look at moving clients from SPLA SQL licensing, but use that as an opportunity to talk about Azure. And 2 of those clients, we ended up converting all of their workloads, migrating all their workloads to Azure. So it was pretty exciting being able to utilize something like a simple license conversion as an opportunity and a gateway to move them to the cloud fully.
Incredible. What started as a hybrid cloud, I meet you where you are conversation really transcended and unlocked the potential of Azure for those customers at different stages, even with the 2 that you mentioned that you were able to fully migrate. That's fantastic news, of course. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned this was a triple win for Center and your stakeholders involved. Can you tell us a bit more of what that means and what has been so impactful?
Absolutely. So a win-win-win. So it's something that benefits, our indirect provider, our business with better margins, and also our partners and our clients. So better pricing extended to them. So everyone benefited by this. So our customers' cost went down. We decided to pass additional front-end savings we got to the customer. So we benefited. We allowed them to benefit also. Our margins improved. So that we got additional back-end Azure incentives. And then also it increased our Azure business, which helped our partners out. So all around wins. And
yeah, of course. And we actually recorded a video speaking to the Azure benefits and the CSP benefits that partners can unlock when leveraging Azure Arc. And the cool thing is you don't even need to go through an end-to-end migration project. This is something that you can transition their existing licensing through Spla. So it's great to hear that you finally were able to convert your customer base. It seems like you've gained a lot of experience with this, Todd. So I have to ask you, for partners listening and watching, what is your advice? What would you recommend they do that has been so successful for you?
Yeah, I think for other partners, there's a lot of complexity debt reduced by this. So a lot of the manual effort on auditing for SPLA, that goes away. And then, so it's a lot less to govern. You can focus your time elsewhere. We were able to utilize our existing Azure automated billing. So by moving, this and the subscription to go through Azure, that's one less thing we had to worry about in regards to billing. So it automated our billing through our PSA. And it simplified it for our customers as well. If they're not using SQL, it's pay as you go. They utilize what they're consuming. They can see it in their portal as well. You can give them access to Azure and to view the data in real time. So it brings them a lot more visibility as well. Allows them to scale up, scale down much more effectively. And ultimately, again, you can have that conversation about Azure and a single pane of glass, I guess, to manage all of your workloads and your server and SQL environment.
And what was your experience working with the DCO team, the data center optimization team at Microsoft, along this journey?
Absolutely. So by utilizing the Cloud Ascent program and data, we have our first sales campaign up and running. I think we identified 42 opportunities, and we won 6 of them, and 12 of them are still active. So a lot of growth there.
What is fascinating to hear is that you're focusing your time and efforts, not reporting on licensing, but your team is actually focused on closing on the biggest opportunities that you have. And the AI capabilities that Cloud Ascent gives you is helping you really prioritize your time and efforts better. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Center Technologies and this 2-part episode series on Azure Arc. We have more hybrid cloud opportunities to share. In the next episode, we'll be talking about Azure Stack HCI and the capabilities it brings to save costs and also get some predictability in your cost structure for you and your customers. Stay tuned for that. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned for more insights and stories from Microsoft's Data Center Optimization team. Be sure to stay connected at dco.microsoft.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.